Hey, how's it going, fight fans? Welcome to Mind for Combat. If you're new to the channel, my name's Rohan, and this is my platform where I do fight sports related content. If you're new here, why don't you help me grow my platform? All you have to do is subscribe to the channel, like the video if you like it, and maybe hit that bell icon to get notified every time I upload a video. With that said, in this video I'll be breaking down a fantasy fight between two of China's biggest superstars, well certainly the biggest in Zhang Weili, and an opponent that I think would make such a fun fight in Xiaonan. I'm sure I slaughtered the name, so I'm just going to call her Yan throughout the rest of this video, but you guys know who I'm talking about. It's the talented, undefeated in the UFC Chinese fighter who fights at 115 just like Zhang, and I think this will be such a fun fight. Also for China, I think this will be very, very important fight. It will be probably the biggest fight in the history of their martial world, like in terms of combat sports and competitive fighting. I don't think they've had a superstar quite as big as Zhang Weili. Now, there's been a couple of names in the boxing sphere, but I have to imagine that Zhang Weili is the biggest star that they've ever had in terms of, you know, combat sports. So this is an excellent fight. It's an excellent fight between two fighters that are very well matched, you know, in age, in skill sets, in talent. Obviously, Zhang's the much more accomplished of the two. But this is a really fun and intriguing fight, and it's one that I really want to go into, break down, and look at and give you guys my thoughts on. Anyways, without further ado, let's look at this fight and let's break it down and see how we will take it. So both of these ladies are 31 years old, both in their physical primes and in their primes of their competitive careers. I think both of these ladies have a long time to go before they even hit the downward slope, let alone look at the tail end of their career. So I think now would be a great time for them to fight. Now, in terms of record, Zhang Weili has a professional record of 21 wins and 1 loss, whereas Yan has a record of 13 wins and 1 loss. Now, obviously, Zhang's a lot more experienced than her in that sense, but you got to remember that Yan is herself 6-0 in the UFC with some really great wins on her record, and actually she's probably the most worthy #1 contender out of other than Rose Namajunas there is at 115 right now. Zhang stands at 5'4" and Yan stands at 5'5", so she's an inch taller, but they have an identical reach at 63 inches. So as Mike Goldberg would say, everything else is virtually identical. To describe their styles, now Zhang, I would say she's a bit more power based. Now yes, they're both strikers and they both like to put combinations in, but I would say Zhang is the stronger of the two. She's stronger in the clinch, she's going to have much more muscle, and she's going to be able to push her around a lot more. And where Yan is going to stand out is going to be in her volume and just the hand speed that she has. I think Zhang herself isn't a slow fighter. She's a very, very talented, well-rounded striker. But I would say that Yan would probably enjoy it when it comes to having distance and getting them combinations off. And I think that's going to make a difference in the two. So I think, you know, the difference is the almost power versus speed, strength versus movement. Different, very exciting, but they're still very similar in a lot of ways. So this is a very, very intriguing fight. Some of their key wins. Now, obviously, with Zhang Weili, she had that incredible fight, maybe one of the best fights that ever happened with Xiaonan, and Xiaonan is the former undisputed champion of the weight class who had 5 defenses of the title. So that's a really big win, and of course she's taken out Jessica Andrade, a former champion as well. She was champion at the time, so of course she would beat a former champion. But that was really a standout performance for me for Zhang, and I was so impressed by how she came together in that performance. Now, that's all that really jumps out to me, and interestingly, I actually think that Yan has more credentialed wins. Now, of course, she hasn't beaten the likes of Xiaonan and Jessica Andrade, who I think are the 2 best fighters in the division outside of Zhang, so those wins mean more. But Yan's actually got a good caliber of wins. So she's beaten Karolina Kowalkiewicz, who's probably at the tail end of her career, to be fair. She's of course beaten Angela Hill. Angela Overkill Hill is a very talented striker with great movement, and a fighter that I think is actually pretty dangerous and pretty underrated in a lot of ways. And of course, she's most recently beaten Claudia Gadelha, the one-time title challenger, who's kind of shown that she has got big holes in the game and is being exposed more and more recently. But Yan looked pretty exceptional in that fight after the first round. She looked like she was able to establish herself, and she looks like the kind of fighter that gets better as the fight goes on. So a 25-minute fight would definitely suit Yan, in my opinion. Now, some of the issues. For Zhang, I would say the biggest issue is that she's hittable. I think she's quite happy to get into the exchanges. She trusts her chin and she trusts her punching power. I don't think that's a smart way to fight, and I think she's very hittable. And I think a fighter like Yan, who puts together brutal, you know, fast zinging combinations, even though she doesn't carry huge punching power, you don't want to be doing that. You're going to be concussed by the end of a round. You still got 25 minutes, 20 minutes to go. You might not get knocked out, but you're going to get dominated because you're battered. That's probably going to be a big problem if this fight was to materialize. And I would say the biggest problem for Yan coming into this fight would be her strength. I think she's going to get out-muscled by Zhang relatively easily, to be honest with you guys. And I think that's going to be her biggest problem coming into this fight. The X factor for Zhang is of course going to be her strength, you know, on the back of Yan's biggest issue, and the X factor for Yan is going to be her speed and the combinations that she puts together, and I think her movement on the feet as well. I think she has a bit of an edge on Zhang in that sense. Let's get into my prediction. Right, so this is a very exciting, entertaining, and quite frankly thrilling fight for me. I think it's a fight that would show the best of the best in terms of movement, stand up, and ability and technique. This isn't going to be a fight that's going to be a war of attrition. I don't see that. I think Zhang might be more open to a war of attrition, but from what I've seen of Yan, that's not the type of fighter she is, and I think that would make this into a chess battle. Now, a lot of people get really annoyed at those, but I love those kind of fights because it's fighters kind of trying to create openings, moving around, fighting a certain way, trying to create holes and gaps, and then landing on them gaps. That's what excites me about martial arts, and that's what excites me about, you know, this sort of type of fighting. So I think this would be a very exciting and important fight for both people. So this is a really intriguing fight in that way. I think that Zhang would be able to keep this fight on the feet or take it down to the ground if she so chooses. I don't think that's the case with Yan. Although on the feet, I think Yan's movement is going to save her from the strength, and she's going to be able to piece her up when they're standing in the middle throwing. I think Yan's combinations and her speed is going to make up a difference, and she's going to connect more. She's going to connect more often. The difference is when Zhang connects, it's going to have a lot more of an impact. Now, as the fight goes on and Zhang's been in the wars, she's going to be smart enough to recognize, to use her strength, and then I think when she grabs her, clinches her and takes Yan down, I don't think Yan is going to be necessarily able to stop her every time. Maybe she can stop her 4 out of 10 times, but if she tries for 10 takedowns, I think Zhang will get 6. In those 6 takedowns, I think she's going to be able to establish top control and be able to rain down some damage from top control, and I think that's where the problem lies. I think that Zhang Weili, being the stronger fighter, is going to be able to dictate the location of the fight. On the feet, Yan doesn't have a huge enough advantage for me to be able to say that she's able to pick her apart, nor does she have the power to finish her. I do think that she'll win the exchanges on the feet, but I don't think that's going to be often, and I think that Zhang will win a lot of the exchanges as well, and when Zhang wins the exchanges, the consequences will be much more severe. For that reason, I'm going to say that Yan gives her hell for a round or 2, maybe even 3, but over the course of the fight, towards late in the second round, into the third, into the fourth, into the fifth, Zhang is going to be the smarter fighter and is going to start to use her clinch. She's going to start to use her strength. She's going to take her down, and I think she's going to be able to make a real big impact as the fight goes on, wearing her down with her strength and doing damage where she needs to do damage. Fight fans, for my official prediction, I'm saying that Zhang Weili is going to be able to utilize her strength, her ground game, her abilities in the clinch, and be able to smother her opponent and be able to get the win here. So if this fight was to ever play out, I will see her winning a 5-round decision. Anyways, guys, why don't you guys comment below and let me know how you would see this fight going. If you're new here, remember to like, subscribe, share, all that jazz. And if you're new to the channel, also tell me if you enjoyed my breakdown. And if you want to see more of these sort of fantasy fight breakdowns, I know there was a Derek Lewis versus Curtis Blades fight coming up, but to me, that's quite a simple fight. I think Blaze just wins that, so I thought I'll cover something a bit more fun. Hope you guys enjoyed this. If there's a preview at the end of this video, of another video, then make sure you watch the preview, and then maybe go onto my channel and check out that video if you haven't already. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching. I'm Rohan, and this is Mind for Combat. This video is about none other than the king of Leftway himself, Dave LeDuc. Dave LeDuc, or maybe more appropriately, King LeDuc, is one of the best martial artists walking the face of the earth, period. Doesn't matter what sport, doesn't matter what you say, he is one of the best fighters we have on the planet right now. He is so talented, so durable, and so violent. But before we talk about Dave LeDuc, and before we start to understand really what makes him so brilliant, why don't we talk about Leftway and what is Leftway? So you guys will know what Muay Thai is, especially if you're MMA fans. You'll know what Muay Thai is. Maybe you follow Muay Thai, maybe you don't. You should follow Muay Thai. There's some great warriors in that as well. Check out the likes of Rod Tang, who's young in his prime, has had 500 pro fights. It's just ridiculous. Check it out. But Leftway can be likened to Muay Thai, but it's different. While Muay Thai is the art of the 8 limbs, Leftway is the art of the 9 limbs, because they use the head. And if you're bold like me, you know, bang, headbutt. So Dave LeDuc does have a similar hairstyle to me. So it's about the art of the 9 limbs, where they throw in the use of the head as well, and it really kind of changes the dynamic of the game. Also, and very importantly, in Muay Thai they use gloves. In Leftway there's no gloves. It's for bare knuckle rules. Absolutely insane. What a great sport. Now, just to give you guys some of the history of Leftway. Leftway is not something that's been just created now by some crazy dudes who wanted to throw down. Actually, it dates back to the 11th century, where in the Pure Empire in Myanmar, modern day Myanmar, once upon a time Burma, and so on and so forth, it was actually a traditional form of martial arts fought back then, and it's something that's existed in some realm of reality ever since then. So we're talking over 900 years of history in this form of martial arts. So this is not something that's new. This is not something that's been created recently, and it went through a major reform at the hands of Kia Banin. I'm sure I slaughtered his name, but Kia Banin was the 1952 Olympian. He was an amateur boxer in 1952 for Myanmar, and he went and fought in the Olympics. And after that, he worked to kind of reform the sport of left way and created what is now known as the modern rule set of left way. Now, left way has a long and deep history, and it's something that I could touch on for a long time. I've really enjoyed left way for a long time. It's not something I've covered because it's not historically been covered, but my channel's so small that I can cover whatever the hell I want. It doesn't really matter. Now, I could do a whole video talking about left way if that's what you guys want. If that's what you guys want, then comment below.